Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Thursday, April 22nd. Hope everybody's doing well. So the market took a little bit of a dive today. Nothing big on news. It was kind of weird because early in the day, news came out that Biden was considering raising the capital gains tax on people who make $1 million a year or more from the originally proposed, I think it was 39% to now 43.4% or something like that. That news came out, and then it was like a couple hours later, like 2 hours later. I mean, the market was doing good. It was going up, and then suddenly it just turned tail and went down. And I guess it was on that news, a delayed reaction. I got a little bit nervous because, I've been worried about some flare-up in Ukraine with Russia, and when I saw the market turn around and I tried to look at what was the cause of that, what news items came out, they were talking about that Biden tax increase, and I thought, something that came out like 2 hours ago. I hope it's not something that we don't know about right now, but so far I haven't seen anything. Anyway, let me talk about this Biden tax proposal. First of all, this is total headline trading again. For those of you who have been following me for any length of time, I must have been through, in the last 2 years of making videos, I must have been through hundreds of examples of headline trading where I tell you, go against these people, go against their emotional behavior and their emotional reaction and people who think they could just see a headline and make money. I mean, that is, the most ridiculous way to approach investing. That is not investing. That's gambling. That's doing everything that the herd is doing. You want to differentiate your approach. You want to be a contrarian. You want to control your emotions, and you want to take advantage of other people's emotions. First of all, a couple of things you could say right away on that tax proposal. We don't know if that's going to happen, okay? Number one, it hasn't already happened. That's a proposal. That's something, I don't even know if it's a concrete proposal. It's something that maybe is being discussed. It's being floated out there, all right? The third thing is that, and this is a little bit more complicated, not really, but it's a little bit more in-depth. Any specific tax per se is not really a problem. We have to look at net spending. If net spending is still positive, in other words, if spending exceeds taxation, then you are always going to have a net addition to income and savings into the economy. All right, let me repeat that. If government spending exceeds taxation, in other words, if it's deficit spending, you are always going to have a net flow, positive flow into the economy of income and savings. That is primary. That is of first order of importance. What the actual tax is only kind of determines how that income and savings are distributed in the economy, all right? So now let's understand something. Really, you can go all the way back to Reagan and Reaganomics when fiscal policy has been tilted, I would say, sharply in the direction of wealthy people and rich people and corporate profits. And as a result of that, we have rarely seen in that 40-year period that we have been in the kind of Reaganomics trickle-down stuff, we have rarely seen economic growth exceed 3%. Now, if you go back to the 1950s and the 1960s, when you didn't have that trickle-down economics, we saw much higher levels of economic growth. And interestingly, now with the stimulus since, last year, and then adding on to that in the fourth quarter of 2020, and now the Biden stimulus, we're seeing growth at 6 to 7%, all right? Because it's been more channeled towards, working people, people out of work, poor people, that kind of thing. So that's important, all right? What the actual tax is, that is not as important as whether it's a net spending situation. Again, deficit spending. It just, whatever that tax is, it just kind of redistributes the income. Now, I personally feel, and I think I will be proven correct if this tax actually comes to fruition. And again, let me say this, it has not been passed. And at the same time today, a GOP committee in the Senate, a Republican Senate group, proposed I think it was a $586 billion infrastructure plan over 8 years. $586 billion over 8 years. I mean, that's like $70 billion a year into 50 states. I mean, that's like ridiculous. It's like $1.5 billion, less than $1.5 billion for each state per year. So that's not going to happen either. So it might be very reasonable to think that Biden's tax increase, above what he originally said he was going to do, is a bargaining position, is a negotiation position. But leave that aside for a second. I happen to think, look, 40 years of fiscal policy tilted towards the wealthy, and it has not really resulted in strong economic growth. Like I said before, there's been only a few times we've exceeded 3% economic growth. And it's only fair, in my opinion, that the gains that were given to the wealthy with respect to tax cuts, and remember, tax cuts are the fiscal equivalent of spending increases. So if you talk about tax cuts, you're really talking about the government writing checks to people. And they've been writing checks for 40 years to very, very wealthy people and to large corporations. I don't think it's unreasonable to propose policy. And again, as an MMT guy, and maybe some of you were already about to ask me this question, you would say, Mike, I thought MMT says you don't have to the government doesn't have to raise taxes in order to spend. And we do say that. But also within MMT, I think there's a lot of us who believe it's also a question of fairness. That some of that fiscal support, massive fiscal support over a period of 40 years that was directed towards the wealthy should be clawed back. And Biden says he's going to use those funds, that revenue, to fund I think he's calling it the American Families Program. I don't know exactly what the details of that are, but it seems to be a program designed to support working people, American families, etc. I don't think that's such a bad thing. I don't think a clawback of 40 years of gains directed at very wealthy people is a bad thing. To bring that, a little bit of equality back to fund whatever he's calling it, the American Families Program, but basically to redirect income and savings toward middle class and working people. I think that would be really beneficial for the economy. So, having said all that, I don't think this thing is bearish for the stock market at all. I don't think it's bearish or negative for the economy at all. As a matter of fact, I think long term it's very good. And I guess you could, read into my next statement, which is that the sell-off, the headline reaction, like we always see, that's wrong. And that's going to be shown to be wrong because the market's going to turn around. We still have a major amount of fiscal support going into the economy. So, again, I like when these things happen because it's a great setup to, buy more stock or just indexes or whatever, or be on the bullish side of the trade. I love it when people react really emotionally like this because, and I've said this so many times, they're basically handing you their money. That's what's going on here. You get a panicky reaction. they don't understand, or they're seeing it through some kind of, false ideological perspective. Oh, we can't cut capital gains because the market's not going to go up anymore. I mean, no, it's all about, how many times have I said, it's all about basic economic conditions. And if you create economic conditions through policy where the economy is growing rather than 3%, it's growing at 6%, and where a broader mass of people or a broader population of people have more money to spend and to invest, I mean, that is a positive development. That is something positive. So, I mean, what happened today, that's just another opportunity. I like it when people don't understand, when they misread, when they ignore, when they are dogmatic about something, because that just creates opportunity. Anyway, so that's my reading on that. We'll see what happens. Don't forget, go to my website, pitbulleconomics.com. Sign up for a 30-day free trial of MMT Trader. See you tomorrow. Bye.